Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jan Clothier of Thinking Stamping and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in New Zealand. And today I thought I'd share with you this very over-the-top vintage style Christmas card made using the Magical Meadow bundle. I made this card for the inspiration Instagram theme at Stampin' Fancy Friday. Now, Stampin' Fancy Friday are a group of past and current Stampin' Up artisan design team members, and every month we put together a theme, and there's a post each day giving you some ideas on the theme. And this month it's over the top Christmas, and that kind of pleased me because usually I'm a very clean and simple or very clean and layered stamper, but for Christmas I do like to go a bit over the top, and I've certainly pulled out every over the top stop I could think of for this card. So I'm going to share with you how I made it, and let's just jump in for the ride because it is it's a little more complex than normal, just lots more steps. So firstly, for going vintage, I have picked kind of rich earthy colours, and so my card base is early espresso. As always for me, it's my normal card base is pretty much half of an A4 sheet of paper, so it's 21 centimetres, scored at 10.5, and I've cut it at 14.8. Now, if you're an imperial person, just use your standard card size base because that's what this is, just my standard card base. So I've got my early espresso base. And then I've got a mat of Distressed Gold Specialty DSP, and that is half a centimetre, or if you're a metrics person, an imperial person, about 1/4 inch less. So it's 10 centimetres that way and 10.3 that way. And then a piece of Very Vanilla to go inside, and so that's half a centimetre smaller, so it's 9.5 by 13.8. And you can see that I've already embossed that using the Distress Tile 3D embossing folder. And I love that it gives you that beautiful sort of antique pattern with these little missing bits sort of giving it that distressed look. So that's that. Now, on the inside, I have got a piece of pecan pie, which is 10 by 14.3, and another piece of vanilla, half a centimetre smaller, so again 9.5 by 13.8, but that's for the inside, and I'll show you later what I've done on the inside, but we'll pop that aside just for now. Now obviously we need some other bits and bobs for all of the things we're going to do on the front. Now a lot of that, and pretty much all of that, comes from the Magical Meadow die set. So I'll just move that to the side and I'll show you what all the bits and pieces are for. So what I've done is I have die cut 2 of these. So you need a piece of Distressed Gold, and I've cut out 2 of those. Now if you wanted to, you could cut it out. If you wanted to, you could cut it out of the centre. I've chosen not to because I just happen to have some scraps of Distressed Gold around, but if you didn't, you could easily disembowel your mat and do that. So that's that. Out of pecan pie, I needed a little piece of pecan pie because I have die cut this. That's that die, and as you can see, I've used the little tiny berry die, and I've cut, so you just need a tiny scrap of cherry cobbler, and I've added in the berries onto that. So that's that one. And I have also, you need another piece of vanilla because we are going to stamp up that image onto it and die cut it. So you need a piece of vanilla for that. Now for the sentiment, which I've stamped onto Very Vanilla in gold embossed, you can see, and I've got a little matching shadow of cherry cobbler there. I used the sentiment from Festive and Fun, so I used that Happy Christmas Wishes there. Now the only kind of regret I have about this card is that I felt that in the end the sentiment was too long. So what I've done today is I've stamped Happy Christmas Wishes, but I masked off the wishes, so I've ended up with Happy Christmas. And I've already done that. I've already done the gold embossing, and I cut that out using the that stitched banner from Stylish Shapes, and I cut an identical one out of a scrap of cherry cobbler, and I've put them together so they're ready for when we need them. And obviously at some point we're going to need a little bit of the gold cord from the Simply Elegant trim. And and while we're talking about die cuts, there was also one of these which I have cut out of Early Espresso, and I have cut out some little, some more of those little berries out of a scrap of the distressed gold. And I haven't put them all on because I thought I'd show you how quick and easy it actually is to add the berries. I mean, it looks like it's one of those things that's going to take you hours. Actually, it's really fast. So in fact, we'll just do that now so it's done. So what I've done is, you can see here, I'll just move that out of the way. You can see here that I've just cut those and I've left them on my cutting plate. And then it's simply a very quick thing to do. You just get your silicone mat, a little bit of glue, and just smear it so it's easy. And then the Take Your Pick tool makes it just simple. So you use the little putty end of it, pick up one, smear it in the glue, move it over, and whoops, pop it on. Now that was a little bit harder than normal just because my putty tip's a bit fat at the moment. So we'll break that off, pick it up, smear a glue, transfer it over, and boom. Now, so that's all of the little bits and die cuts and things that we need. So we'll just pop those off to the side. There is one more thing that we need to do before we're ready to roll, and that is to do the stamping. Now, the stamping I'm going to die cut because that's a textured surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do it in two colours. So I'm going to get my two inks, which are Early Espresso and Cherry Cobbler. And I'm simply going to get my sponge dauber and check which one's which. Oh, yep, there's my dark Early Espresso, and I'm just going to go over and I'm just going to pop some ink over the stem and the foliage, and I'm going to, as much as possible, avoid the berries. Now, if I didn't have an embossed card front, I would just stamp this probably directly onto the card front. And I probably still could have in this instance, but I wanted it to stand out from the embossed background. So I have chosen to stamp it and then die cut it. So this is the Cherry Cobbler, and I'm just going to go in and cherry cobble the berries. Now, doing your two colouring stamping this way doesn't dry out quite as quickly as it would if you were using Stampin' Right markers, but you can just breathe on it to loosen it if you want to, and then nice firm press, count to 10 so the ink's got time to transfer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there it is, all just waiting for us to die cut. And here's one that I did earlier so that we're ready to roll with it. Right, so there's all the things that we need for the front. And so now it's just a couple of other bits and pieces to do, and we're on the way. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of distressing of the of this embossed panel. So I'm going to take crumb cake, and I'm going to take my blending brush, and I'm just going to do some inking around the edges. Oops. And you can be as, inky as you like. Now, in an ideal world, I would not have put an ink blot there, but since we are being distressed in our style, it's actually not going to matter because we're going to add in some other bits and pieces to that before we use it anyway. Now, the quite fun part of this is we're going to do a little bit of gilding. That's how I've got those beautiful little flakes of gold around there. So a product that I quite often forget I own is the gilded leafing. It comes in this big pot, but it's very light and it blows everywhere if you're not careful. So you want to do it, don't do it in the wind. Try not to breathe on it. And what I do is I've put some into a larger container. Now that came out of this pot, and you can see I've still got a heap in there. So it goes a very long way. It's a lovely product. It's a little bit messy, but you know, worth it. So I'm just going to move those off so that they don't accidentally get anything. Now, there's a few ways you can do this, but what I do when I'm going to do a bit of gilding is I just use my mat, a bit of glue. You can use heat and stick powder, and if I was doing a large area, I probably would do that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put some there, and I'm just going to, because, you know, I just want a random effect, so I'm just going to tap on just some little bits of glue. I'm trying to avoid, what I'm trying to avoid, and I hope I have, is a large fingerprint. So I've just tapped on a little bit of glue. Just going to dump it into my container. And what you get is a bit of a mess. So the first thing you do is you just start rubbing it off with your fingers. And you can see why a little goes a long way, because it stays on in a very thin layer. And then I have a top secret weapon, and that is a toothbrush purchased from the supermarket especially for this purpose. And then I just go over it with a brush, and that gets off any loose bits. Now, what you can do at this point is you can go, well, okay, that looks all right, but I want a few more bits of gilding in a particular place. And you can, in fact, just do that. You can go, okay, that's, you know, I want more somewhere. And so you can just go back, dibble in a little bit of glue where you want it. And I'm going to be finding gilding flakes all over my table for about the next week and a half. But that's fine, because it was worth it. Now, the other thing I did, which again is one of those messy things, and I'm moving lots of stuff out of the way just because it can be very messy. What I'm going to do is, you might have seen, there are a few little splatters of early espresso in there. So I'm going to take my early espresso ink. Now, I could use re-inker, and you know, little re-inker from a bottle for what I'm about to do, but because I only want to use such a little bit, I'm just going to use ink off of the pad. I'm going to get myself a water painter, and I'm just going to squeeze on a bit of water and inky it up a bit so it's slushy. And I'm going to get my bone folder, and I'm just going to stand back a bit and just tap it on the edge of my bone folder. And so I'm just going to splush up a bit more and tap, tap. Now you want to do this where you make sure anything that you don't want splashes on is out of harm's way, because you can't always tell exactly where the splashes are going to go. So you can do it in a special box, like an old box lid or something like that, to help contain the damage. Or you can just be very careful and very quick with your wet wipes when you've done it. So to be done with care. Worth the effort, but yeah, you need to be a little bit careful. So you can see now I've built up, I've got my sponging, I've got my gilding, I've got my splashes. My little extra bit of thumbprint there is not going to, you know, do anything except be part of the whole distressed look. And so now we're in a position where we can actually start assembling things. So, glue. I do love this distressed foil. It was interesting in card classes this week. I had some gold Noel lettering to put onto a card, and I gave people a choice. I'd put out some standard gold foil and some of that distressed foil, and they could choose which one they wanted. Almost everybody picked this one, which was interesting because I'd expected more of an even split. Okay, so we're going to do this. And now we'll add on our distressed panel. In an ideal world, if I wasn't making this video, I would give the ink splots a little bit longer to dry, but hopefully we'll get away with it. Now I'm putting on more glue than I normally would, and the reason I'm doing that is because this is a textured surface going onto a very flat surface. And so I'm going to do I've done two things. I've put on more glue, and I think I'll turn that the other way. Just looking at it and thinking about, which way do I want it? Where my spray's got to go on. No, I think it looks better this way. Okay. So the two things I'm going to do is I've put on more glue than normal, and I'm also going to spend a bit more time pressing it down. So I'm going to go around the edges and press it firmly. And I'm actually just going to spend a moment pressing it so that the glue's got time to really start making an attachment. And I just think that's a bit more important when you're dealing with a textured surface. Right, so now that does look a bit messy, but never fear. We are now going to build our lovely bouquet. So I know that's at the bottom, so I am going to attach it. Normally what I say to people in classes is don't attach anything until you're absolutely certain where everything's going to go. I can break my own rule here, and I'm going to attach this as my starting point. Right, so we've got our lovely little thing going on, our lovely little spray, and now we've got our nice sentiment. So the next thing we're going to add in is our bow. Now I want quite a generous bow because I want the loops to, you know, loop out. So let's just see how it goes. We'll tie it and then we'll cut it. Okay, do I want it that big? About there. Okay, and then we'll cut because we can always trim the ends. And I think a glue dot or two would be a handy thing here. So let's glue dot that. And I'm always a little bit suspicious about glue dots, so I don't think they're going to show because we've got the sentiment to come over yet. So I think we can have another glue dot there. Now, let's see, how's that going to go? Okay, we might need to add in some more bits and bobs of glue dot depending on the sentiment. Now I've only put dimensionals at the end because it's going to go across this whole bow and bouquet, and there's quite a lot of bulk in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dimensional the ends, and I'm just going to put a bit of glue in the middle, and then we shall line that up. And yes, that's good. Okay, now what are we going to do with the ends of this? I think we're going to cut them a little bit shorter. And I have to say that I'm actually very happy that I have made that a shorter sentiment. I think it's a lot nicer. Now, a bit of embellishment, slightly sad story on the embellishment because I've been using these brushed metallic adhesive backed dots and they come in gold and pewter and bronze. And unfortunately, between the making of this card and the making of this card, all of my golds have disappeared. So, what will I use instead? I think I was tempted to do the copper, but I actually think I'm going to go for that pewtery bronze colour instead. Let's try one and see. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, if I still had gold ones, or if my new gold ones had arrived in my letterbox, I'd be using those. But I think that these pewter ones are fine. Okay. So there we go. There is my over-the-top Christmas card, my vintage Winter Meadow Christmas card, and the only thing left to do is to just show you what I did in the inside, because remember we've put aside a piece of pecan pie and another piece of very vanilla, and what I did with that was I simply stamped another one of those two coloured sprays that we used for the front, and then I've just lightly sponged around the edge to carry on that distressed look. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching how I made that card, and I hope you'll give it a go yourselves. If you live in New Zealand and you've seen anything that I've used today that you'd like to add to your craft stash, then please shop with me, and there's a link to my online store in the descriptions below. I'm always happy to answer questions, and you can contact me through the details that are also in the video description below. If you've liked what you've seen and you've not subscribed, please do so you don't miss anything new that I do. And above all else, everyone, happy stamping.